ॐ यथाग्निर्दाहिका शक्ति रामकृष्णे स्थिता हिया सर्वविद्यास्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्। So today's topic you have seen already. Since Holy Mother's birthday falls on the 5th of this month, we will discuss something about her divine life. Today's topic, of course, we won't deal with the incidents from her life. We will keep that for later. But since this is the first time that we are discussing Holy Mother's life, I have chosen to discuss it in a slightly different way, concentrating on her real nature. In the Gospel, there is one very very important statement of Sri Ramakrishna, that once someone tells him that he wants to attain only bhakti and not jnana or knowledge. So in reply, Sri Ramakrishna says, how can you love somebody you don't know? যাকে জানবি না তাকে ভক্তি করবি কি করে? It is in Bengali. How can you practice devotion to somebody you don't know? This is a very important statement, you see. If we want to practice devotion, even an ordinary human being, suppose, when we like somebody, when we love somebody, it is never without knowing him or her. We know something about him or her which we like, which is good, some good quality, and our love is based upon that. At least it should be based upon that. Often it is not, that is unfortunate, but it should be based on some noble qualities which that person possesses. So similarly here also, when we try to practice devotion towards God, our intellect and heart should go hand in hand. When the intellect doesn't function properly, when it is only the heart, then what happens? Often so-called devotion leads to mere sentimentalism. That's the problem in 99% of the cases. When we don't concentrate on the real nature of God, when we don't try to know who is that being towards whom we are trying to practice devotion, and why we should practice devotion, what will we gain by that? All these things should be very clear in our mind, you see, because without an intellectual basis, when our emotions are not supported by rational thinking, then those emotions generally go haywire. There is no control over the emotions, so they actually lead to grief sooner or later. Anyway, it is a big topic, so I won't go into so much detail now. The thing is, our devotion should be a combination of head and heart. Our impulse takes us forward, our heart takes us forward, but there should be a rational thinking behind that. So that comes from trying to know as much as possible about the nature of God towards whom we are trying to practice devotion. This is what I want to say. So against this background, let us start today's topic. I will begin by quoting Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda says in one of his talks, quote, to my mind, if modern science is proving anything again and again, it is this, that we are one, mentally, spiritually, and physically. The self is the essence of this universe, the essence of all souls. He is the essence of your own life. You are one with this universe. He who says he is different from others, even by a hair's breadth, immediately becomes miserable. Happiness belongs to him who knows this oneness, who knows he is one with this universe. This is the central theme, this is the central teaching of the Vedas and of all our saints and sages, that we are one with the universe. The Indo-Aryan thinkers, as early as the times of the Rig Veda, recognized the eternal unity of existence. Okay, this unity pervades the universe and yet remains beyond it. How is that possible? That is a separate topic. But this supreme reality, it also pervades the universe in one form, yet also remains beyond it. All objects, animate and inanimate, are included in it. Gods, men, subhuman beings are all parts of this unity. And this unchanging reality behind the universe is called Brahman. This is called Brahman, or the supreme reality, by our saints and sages, and in the Upanishads and Gita it occurs many times. So this Brahman is behind the universe, as well as it also pervades the universe. Now, as we have seen before, each Sanskrit word is derived from a root. That root points out to the meaning of that word. So Brahman is derived from a root which means expand, to expand. So the word Brahman denotes the entity to whose greatness, magnitude, or expansion no one can put a limit to or measure. You can never measure what is infinite. Infinity can never be measured. So similarly, Brahman, which is the ultimate reality, the one and only, which is infinite, can never be measured by any parameters we know. Now this supreme Brahman is beyond everything. Actually, Brahman has two forms according to our scriptures. One is without attributes, without any qualities whatsoever, and the other form is with attributes. Okay, these two types of Brahman are described in the scriptures, but we should know that they don't denote two separate entities. Brahman is one and only one. Infinity can be only one. But depending on the way we look at it, it is either without attributes or with attributes. Brahman without attribute is called Nirguna Brahman. Guna, you know, guna means quality. Nirguna means without any gunas or attributes. And Brahman with attributes is called Saguna. Sa means with, guna is attributes. So Nirguna and Saguna. So now first let us deal with the Nirguna Brahman without attributes. This supreme reality, which is beyond everything, is pure consciousness. It is neither the subject nor the object. It is neither knower nor knowledge nor what is known. It is neither the seer nor the seeing nor what is seen. It is neither gross nor subtle, neither great nor small, neither being or non-being. Okay, it is beyond all notions of substance and attributes. Nothing whatsoever can be predicated of it. You see, the process of knowledge has three things: knower, knowledge, and what is known. But when there is only one consciousness, who will know what? So that is why there is no knower, knowledge, or object of knowledge in Brahman. It cannot be. That Brahman is beyond all activities and relations. Okay. Now, in our scriptures, it is also said that Brahman is the cause of this universe. In the Brahma Sutras, if you study, the second sutra says that Brahman is the cause of the origination, the sustenance, and also the destruction of the universe. Now the question comes, that which is infinite, beyond that there is which is nothing existing, that in which there is no activity possible, how can that reality create the universe? It is impossible. Anything beyond which, other than which nothing exists, in that state, how can there be any creation? Creation means duality. Duality steps in whenever there is creation. The creator and the created. And the created also may be of various types. So when we are talking about one infinite knowledge, one infinite consciousness, which is the supreme reality, how can that be the creator of the universe, the creator of anything for that matter? It can never be. So Brahman without attributes can never be the creator of this universe. But still, the scriptures say that Brahman is the creator. So what is the answer? The answer is that Brahman without attributes cannot be the creator. If Brahman is to create the universe, it has to be with attributes. It has to have some quality so that it can create the universe. Then the question will come, then are there two Brahmans? One without attributes and one with attributes? No. There cannot be two infinities. So Brahman is only one. Then from where does this Brahman with attributes come from? It is depending on how we see Brahman. See, we are within this creation. We cannot go beyond creation in the state in which we are. We can go beyond creation only in the highest level of samadhi, when we realize our unity with the attributeless Brahman. Before that, till we are conditioned by our mind, we have to be within creation. We have no choice. And remaining within this creation or Maya, all our knowledge is dependent upon our mind. Okay? And we cannot go beyond our mind till we don't achieve that highest level of samadhi. So, in our current state, we can have absolutely no idea of Brahman without attributes, of Nirguna Brahman. So, how to then worship Brahman? When we try to imagine Brahman, we have to see it or imagine it through our mind. Okay? So when we are seeing Brahman through our mind, we are seeing it through a partition, so to say. We are seeing it through an obstruction, which is Maya. There is a white light burning, absolutely white, it has no color. But we are wearing spectacles of a red or blue color. Then what will happen? We will see that light as a blue or red light depending upon the color of our glasses. So are there two lights? No. There is only one light. But depending on how we see it either as red or blue or white. So if the circumstances are such that it is not possible for us to remove our spectacles, we can never see the light as it truly is. We will only see it having the color which is the color of our spectacles. This example should make this very clear. So currently we are seeing Brahman through Maya. Till we are ignorant, till we are possessed of this mind, till mind is the only source of our knowledge, we cannot even imagine what attributeless or Nirguna Brahman is. All we can think of is Brahman with attributes. And it is this Brahman with attributes which is given various names which we call Ishvara, God, Bhagavan, Allah, Ahur Mazda, anything. Which we call Christ, Krishna, Ramakrishna, anything. This we have to understand. So we are actually worshipping Brahman only, but Brahman viewed through Maya is all that we can currently worship and even imagine. There is no scope for any worship in the attributeless Brahman. When a person attains the highest illumination, then he is one with the infinite reality. There is no second at all. So who will worship whom? But as soon as we come down to the level of Maya, as soon as we come to duality, the whole universe has a reality for us. And then automatically the differences between high and low, the worshipper and worshipped come into being. Okay, so this Brahman with attributes or the Saguna Brahman, also called Ishvara, Bhagavan or so many names we know, that Brahman is the creator, sustainer and destroyer of the universe. This we should understand very clearly. And now we know that even a small activity, smallest of activity, requires energy or power, which is called in Sanskrit and Hindi and Bengali also Shakti. Even the smallest of our activities requires that power. So what to say when God creates this whole infinite universe? What to say, what to speak of? That it certainly requires Shakti. God cannot do that if he doesn't have the required power. But this power of God, this power of Brahman, inheres in Brahman. Okay? That power of Brahman is not separate from Brahman. We should not think that power is somewhere else. Like in our case, in the material objects, what happens? The energy we gain is from food. So something we are taking, and that digested, it gives us energy. But Sri Ramakrishna beautifully explains the relation between Brahman and its Shakti by giving us the example of fire and its burning power. In the beginning of the today's class, we recited the Pranam Mantra of Holy Mother. Yatha Agne Dahika Shakti. Dahika Shakti is the burning power of the fire. So fire and its burning power are not separate. If you take the burning power away from the fire won't be fire at all. Similarly, if we imagine God without his power, then he won't be God at all. Okay, so as the burning power of fire is not different from it, God and the Shakti with which he creates this universe are not different from one another. Okay, that is why in the Chandi the same thing is said in the Durga Saptashati. This truth is expressed in a beautiful way. While worshipping the Devi, the rishis say, Tvayaitat dharyate vishwam, Tvayaitat srijyate jagat, Tvayaitat palyate devi, Tvamatsante cha sarvada. Tvayaitat dharyate vishwam. By you this universe is born. Born means B-O-R-N-E. By you this world is created. Tvai etat srijyate jagat. Tvai etat palyate devi. By you it is protected. And you always consume it at the end. Because this worship, this stuti, this praise is for Devi, Shakti. So it is telling, O Shakti, O Devi, it is you who are creating, sustaining and destroying this universe. So God is creating and destroying with this power. Or if you look at it the other way, if you concentrate on the Shakti aspect of God, as the Shaktas do, the mother worshippers, they concentrate on the Shakti aspect. So worshipping Shakti, they say that it is you who create, sustain and dissolve the universe. It is she, the Devi, which is not different from eternal Brahman. Shiva and Shakti, it depends upon how you see it. If you concentrate on the Shiva aspect, then you concentrate on Shiva lying beneath Mother Kali's feet. That is Nirguna Brahman, actionless, absolutely. He is not moving at all. Who is moving? The Shakti, Mother Kali. So depending on how we see it, either the Shiva aspect or the Shakti aspect, the worshippers extol Brahman according to their own mental attitude. So Swami Gambhiranandji, he says beautifully, God as associated with his power is alone able to set in motion a new cycle of social and spiritual regeneration. Else it is impossible to conceive of the absolute Brahman as involved in any process of evolution. So what we have discussed till now in detail, this one sentence sums it up in a beautiful way. I have just tried to explain this one sentence, so pregnant with meaning. Okay, this much is clear. Now, we know that God incarnates himself in a human body from the beginning of time. Out of his mercy, he has been doing so. He has come in so many forms and he comes for the purpose of this social and spiritual regeneration. What Gambhiranand Maharaj, we have just seen what he said. This is denoted by when Swamiji in the Pranam mantra of Sri Ramakrishna, he says, Sthapakaya cha dharmasya. He had come for the sthapana or the establishment of religion. But devoid of his Shakti, he cannot do that. He cannot do it. He needs Shakti. And the power which he establishes Dharma is this Shakti. This Shakti or power. So it is called, to distinguish this divine power from ordinary power, we call it Adya Shakti or the primordial power. This is the significance of the term Adya Shakti, means Shakti which was at the very beginning, from which all other Shakti emanates. The source of all Shakti, that is the primordial power. This again has been beautifully put in the Chandi. When the Devi is worshipped by the gods, they say, Yat chakinchid kvachid vastu sadasad vakhilatmike tasya sarvasya ya shakti satvam kimstu yase maya. Yat cha kinchit kvachid vastu, whatever or wherever a thing exists, sad asad akhila, it is whether it is conscious or unconscious, anything, tasya sarvasya ya shakti, it is all your Shakti, O Devi, because you are the primordial power. All the Shakti, the manifestations of which we see in the universe, is all Devi's Shakti. In her Shakti is manifesting through various forms. Okay, so beautifully it has been expressed in our scriptures, especially in the Chandi. This same thing, again it has been said in a beautiful way. Tvam Vaishnavi Shakti Ananta Virya Vishwasya Bijam Paramasi Maya. Tvam Vaishnavi Shakti Ananta Virya Vishwasya Bijam Paramasi Maya Sammohitam Devi Samastametad Tvam Vai Prasanna Bhuvi Mukti Hetu. So Tvam Vaishnavi Shakti Ananta Virya, you are the endless source of the energy which rules the world. So she is the repository or the origin of every kind of Shakti which we see in the universe. So again, I would like to quote Swami Gambhiranand Ji. He has explained this so well. Now what happened when God comes to this earth, when he incarnates as a human being? Gambhiranand Ji says, quote, when God incarnates as man, he invokes this power and then employs her because power is generally addressed as a female Shakti, and then employs her for the good of men. The divine power thus propitiated by the Lord himself, becomes gracious and suitably rearranges the factors concerned for the advancement of ignorant humanity. This is one thing. And not only this, not only God invokes the Shakti, not only that, but when God comes down as man, divine power also accompanies him, most often as a woman. The descent of Sita with Ramchandra, Sri Radha with Krishna, Yashodhara with Buddha, and Vishnu Priya with Sri Chaitanya emphasizes this fact. And of course, Sarada Devi with Sri Ramakrishna. So in truth, divine power, whether on the spiritual or on the material plane, or as the concert of an incarnation, helps him immensely in his mission. Divorced from power, his divine drama cannot be enacted, nor can it be comprehended by us. This is what Gambhirananji says. Divorced from his Shakti, there cannot be any Leela. There cannot be any enactment of this divine play. There cannot be any creation. What to say of Leela? Nothing. Of course, Leela is also synonymous with creation sometimes. This is the thing. So, that is why Sardananji writes in his wonderful book, Bharate Shakti Puja, that is the worship of the God as mother in India. He says, this sentence is very important, the first sentence, having discovered the eternal association of power with consciousness, the rishis of India worshipped in all exceptionally energetic things the deity who dances on the prostrate body of Shiva. This one sentence, you just see what he has said. First of all, having discovered the eternal association of power with consciousness. Eternal association, mind you. Power can never be divorced from consciousness. Means what? Brahman can never be divorced, can never be separated from its Shakti. Okay, they always exist, coexist, because they are one and the same. And then he says, realizing this, the rishis of India worshipped in all exceptionally energetic things the deity who dances on the prostrate body of Shiva. So what did the rishis see? That this wonderful power of this Devi is being manifested everywhere. And whenever they saw a special manifestation, they knew that the Devi is present there in a greater degree. So they worshipped that as the Devi herself. Okay, till you can actually have the vision of the Devi and worship her, you have to worship her in all her manifestations in this world. And Sri Ramakrishna has said again and again and again, God is present everywhere, everything, but the manifestation of his power differs. That is why when he went to Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, he said, there is a special manifestation of power in you, otherwise why have we come to see you? So everything can be connected, you see, we just have to see it, understand it in the right aspect. So, of course, there are many, I thought of many more things, but we have to cut it a little short as usual. I say much more than I mean to say always. So Sardananji, after that he says, this incomparable deity who promises both blessing and protection with her hands at the same time that she wears a necklace of heads, was discovered by them as a reality and as such worshipped reverentially in such elevating and degrading qualities as knowledge, forbearance, peace, these are the good qualities, and also in delusion, error, ignorance, etc. That is why when you read that stotra of Chandi, Namastasya, 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 Namo Namah, everything, they say that even I worship you as delusion. So the question may come, my God, why are you worshipping delusion? We are not worshipping delusion. We are worshipping the Shakti who manifests as delusion. Because that is all there is. So those rishis worshipped her in everything, in every single thing in the universe, because their divine sight showed them that it is that divine Shakti, the primordial power, which is the source of all the Shakti which we see in the world. And this Shakti, Swami Vivekananda realized that this Shakti had been awakened by Sri Ramakrishna for the rejuvenation of the present age. This Shakti. And she had come down with Sri Ramakrishna as Sarada Devi. Again and again, Swami Vivekananda has said this. There are so many quotations. I desist from quoting. It will take a long time. Some other time we can see. So, he had such reverence for Sarada Devi that at one even writes to Swami Shivananda that Sri Ramakrishna you may consider as God or as a saint, I don't care. But those who don't have reverence from Holy Mother, they are finished. What more can one say? So he says in a hymn, I think it is some poem or something, a slave am I to both of you, and to both do I prostrate myself. Now against this discussion, what we have had, short discussion, in the background of this, we can understand Sri Ramakrishna's statement. Sarada, that is Holy Mother, is my Shakti. This is the reason why he said this. Here, when Sri Ramakrishna says my, he is not saying Gadadhar Chattopadhyay. He is not saying the priest of the Kali temple. Here when he says my, his means, my means Brahman. I am Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna is saying by this sentence that I am Brahman, the supreme reality, having come down to this earth, and she is my divine Shakti, or the primordial power, who has come to help in my mission. And both are non-different from each other, as fire and its burning power. And to illustrate this non-difference, another beautiful example is given in Vedanta, which is called Tadatmya Sambandha. The example given is a flame and its light. A flame is burning in the room. The whole room is filled with the light of the flame. Now, are the flame and the light one and the same? Or are they different? The flame and the light are not the same, because when we put our finger in the flame, the finger is burnt. But the light which emanates from the flame doesn't burn our body. So they are not the same, but they are not different also, because if we take the flame out of the room, the light also goes away with it. So they are neither one and the same, nor they are different. It depends on how you look at it. Shiva and Shakti, in this way, actually they are non-different, but when we adore them concentrating on the different aspects, we adore them as separate. That is why Shiva is seen as separate and Shakti is seen as separate. It all depends upon our attitude. So this Shakti or the primordial power is also called Prakriti or Maya. Okay, Maya has many connotations, so we should not think that whenever Maya is mentioned, it is the same thing is said. Maya has many connotations. Sometimes also you used to denote some magic also. But often Maya and Prakriti are also used to denote the primordial power. In the Stotra, the most famous Stotra about Holy Mother, Prakritim Paramam. Prakritim Paramam Abhayam Varadam. First two words. Whom are you worshipping? The Parama Prakriti. Parama means supreme. Supreme Prakriti. So that is on Holy Mother, as we all know. So this is the role of Holy Mother in Shri Ram Krishna's incarnation. Because without Shakti, even God can't do anything. It is said, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitum. Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati. Only when God has that power in him, when he is associated with that power, can God do his work. Divested of his power, he is not God at all. So that is why I will again quote Swami Vivekananda. He says in one of his letters, I quote, without Shakti or power, there is no regeneration for the world. Holy Mother has been born to revive that wonderful Shakti in India, and making her the nucleus, once more Gargis and Maitreys will be born into the world. Without the grace of Shakti, nothing is to be accomplished. What do I find in America and Europe? The worship of Shakti, the worship of power. Yet they worship her ignorantly through sense gratification. Imagine then what a lot of good they will achieve who will worship her with all purity in a sattvika spirit, looking upon her as their mother. So the highest good will come to us when we worship this Shakti after understanding clearly whom we are worshipping. That knowledge has to be there at the back of the mind. That we are worshipping the divinity. We are worshipping divinity, that we should always be conscious. Otherwise, if we just think that God is also possessed of a body, he is just like any ordinary person. If that rational thinking is not behind our worship, then we will not make as much spiritual progress as we could. So divinity has not to be brought down to the human level. We have to raise even our human relationships to the divine level. That is the thing. Holy Mother is not to be worshipped as our earthly mother. Okay, the divine should not be made human, but our earthly mother should also be worshipped as Holy Mother, as divine. That is the highest form of worship. That is what is said in the Taittiriya Upanishad. When it says, Matri Devo Bhava, Pitri Devo Bhava. What does this mean? This means that recognize that divine Shakti in everything. But for us, the greatest manifestation, if it is our parents, then first see that Shakti manifested first in your parents, who are your first gurus. So this is the spirit behind the thing. That is the thing. So we should understand this clearly. Now we can say, finally, if God and His power are not different, then what is the use of worshipping Shakti separately? Why divorce them? Just worship one reality. Why think of Shiva and Shakti as separate? That may be one question. Because see, here Gambhiranandaji gives a beautiful reply to this. Not only has the descent of God a particular technique of its own, but the manifestation of His power also has its own mode. Or to put it otherwise, though the time and the purpose are the same for the incarnation of God and His power, yet the objective is attained through the masculine body in one way and through the feminine body in another way. The same power, but the manifestation is different. So why should we limit ourselves? We should find joy in both the manifestations. I'll give you a very simple example. Our parents love us. My father loves me, my mother loves me. It is the same love. But does my father love me in the same way as my mother does? No. It is different. If I do something wrong, my father will give me a slap. But my mother will take me to a corner and try to make me understand through gentle words. Both are love. So we enjoy the same love through so many mediums. So similarly, when we worship God both as Shiva and Shakti, we are enjoying Him in different ways. Generally, it is called the masculine and the feminine. Shakti is imagined as the feminine power. So it is the same power of God which we can enjoy in so many other ways. So why limit Him to one aspect only? We can worship Him in infinite aspects, so that to enjoy that divine bliss in as many ways as possible. So that is why Gambhiranandaji says, thus it is that even though the entity means the supreme reality, cannot be split up, there is a special value in following separately the events that accompany the female counterpart. So of course we will study the life, we will follow the events in Sri Ramakrishna life, but we will also do that with Holy Mother. Because both, even though they are the same ultimately, their manifestations in this world are unique, different from each other. So we will enjoy both. Why should we limit ourselves? And finally, I won't go into detail, but finally we will see in this age what is the special contribution of Holy Mother, of this divine Shakti, because we have seen while discussing the Durga Saptashati that in the Chandi it is said, the goddess says, whenever there arises any obstacle from the demons, I shall come down in this way to destroy the enemy. Okay. So in the Chandi we see that Shumba, Nishumba, etc., the demons, the goddess is destroying with her weapons and all. She's killing all of them. So in the olden times, it was the constant need for destroying the demons. But we should remember that the destructive power of the demons is not confined to the physical plane. The constant conflict that rages in human hearts between good and evil tendencies is also described as a battle waged by the demons against the forces of goodness. Okay, so the incarnate divine power in this age has come to us, has descended on earth more for fighting the internal enemies, our internal enemies. Okay, so how can you vanquish the enemies? There are two ways. If you want to vanquish your enemy, there are two ways. Either you can kill him, just cut his head off, finished. One shot of the Devi and one spear and finished. Or you can change the mindset of that person, of the demon. Now Devi could have adopted two ways. Either she did what she did, she killed all Shumba and Nishumba. But another way of conquering them was change the minds of Shumba and Nishumba so that they are not demons any longer, they become saints. Then that objective will be accomplished. So which is more difficult? Naturally, making Shumba and people like Shumba and Nishumba saints is much more difficult than killing them. Killing them can be done in 1 minute. So what Holy Mother has done in this incarnation, she has done this impossible job of converting sinners to saints. She did not kill them. She transformed them in such a way that the demons were no longer demons. All that poison she took within herself and made them pure. There are so many incidents. I can go on quoting, of course, now is not the time. When we discuss the details of Holy Mother's life, you will see. So this is the tremendous power which was manifested, it is still manifesting in this whole world. The divine Shakti, which has been awakened by Sri Ramakrishna. That is why Swami Premananda says in this letter, in one letter of his, that what Holy Mother is doing, we have not seen even Sri Ramakrishna do. So that is a separate, it's a wonderful subject, and that we can go into that later. So in the present incarnation of this divine Shakti, there is no clanging of weapons or the din of war, but there is an abundance of modesty, humility, purity, goodness, motherly love, and spiritual experience. Swami Gambhirananda, he says this. In such a beautiful way it is said. So I think I have to end here now. We can go on and on. This is such a wonderful and big subject. So in everything what we have discussed today, I will just quote the sum and substance in the words of Swami Shivananda or Mahapurush Maharaj. He was such a great soul that Swami Vivekananda himself gave him this name, Mahapurusha, or the great soul. He says about Holy Mother, I quote, "She is the mother of us all, none other than the mother of the universe herself. She incarnated herself to fulfill the mission of the Master. The world is blessed by her very presence. None of us can understand her. Who indeed can understand her, since she is so guarded in the expression of her divine moods? She lives like an ordinary housewife. Whoever can understand that she is none other than the Divine Mother herself? The Master told me one day, the Mother who is there in the temple of Kali, and this Mother who is in the concert tower means the Nahabat. Holy Mother used to live in the Nahabat. So Sri Ramakrishna had said to Swami Shivananda that the Mother who is in the temple, Mother Kali, and that she who is living in the Nahabat, they are one and the same. They are one and the same. And to Hriday, Sri Ramakrishna said, Hriday used to sometimes exceed his limits and all. No, he sometimes even used to insult the Holy Mother. So Sri Ramakrishna says, Hriday, if the power who is here, if he gets angry, no problem, you can still be saved. But the power which is in her, if that gets angry, even Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh will not be able to save you. So we can end for today and then we can have one song. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarodama Brahmomoyi Gyan Noyone Dekh Nache Sarodama Brahmomoyi Gyan Noyone Dekh Nache Ananto Korunar Dhara Ananto Korunar Dhara Obirolo Jai Boye Sarodama Brahmomoyi Gyan Noyone Dekh Nache Mooladhare Kundolini Sahasrare Shivorani Mooladhare Kundolini Sahasrare Shivorani Mokho Phalo Prodayini Mokho Phalo Prodayini আছে ঘরে মাটি হয়ে সারদামা ব্রহ্মময়ী জ্ঞান নয়নে দেখ নাচে অধরা যে দেয় না ধরা মাঝে হর মনোহরা অধরা যে দেয় না ধরা মাঝে হর মনোহরা অন্তরেতে পাবি সারা অন্তরেতে পাবি সারা আকুল করা রাধা বিষ্ণু প্রিয়া, এবার রাম কৃষ্ণ জয়া। সীতা রাধা বিষ্ণু প্রিয়া, এবার রাম কৃষ্ণ জয়া। বুক ভরা যার স্নেহ মায়া, বুক ভরা যার স্নেহ মায়া, ধন্য এমন মাকে পেয়ে। শারদামা ব্রহ্মময়ী, জ্ঞান নয়নে দেখ নাচে। অনন্ত করুণার ধারা, অনন্ত করুণার ধারা, অবিরল যায় বয়ে। শারদামা ব্রহ্মময়ী, জ্ঞান নয়নে দেখ নাচে। শারদামা ব্রহ্মময়ী, জ্ঞান নয়নে